Life is a big school. We all have to learn.
Greek mythology is filled with powerful gods and goddesses who governed the ancient world, and none were more influential than the gods of the sea. Poseidon, the brother of Zeus and Hades, was the main god of the sea and one of the 12 Olympian deities. He was known for his fearsome power and commanding presence, and was deeply respected and feared by mortals and gods alike. Poseidon was tasked with ruling over the vast and treacherous waters of the Mediterranean, Aegean, and Black Seas, as well as all aquatic life that dwelled within them. He was responsible for keeping the sea calm and safe for sailors and fishermen, and for controlling the storms and tides that threatened to overwhelm them. Despite his important role, Poseidon was not always content with his duties. He was known for his hot temper and fierce determination, and would often lash out at anyone who dared to cross him. However, there was one thing that softened his demeanor: his love for Amphitrite. Amphitrite was a Nereid, one of the many sea nymphs who were said to be the daughters of Nereus and Doris. She was known for her beauty and grace, and was said to be the most lovely of all the sea nymphs. Poseidon fell deeply in love with her, and would often seek her out among the waves. However, Amphitrite was not easily won over. She was wary of the hot-tempered god, and feared his wrath should she reject his advances. But as Poseidon continued to pursue her with fervor, she began to see past his fiery exterior and appreciate his deep passion and love for her. Their love affair was not without its challenges, however. Poseidon's fierce temper and volatile nature often caused him to clash with Amphitrite and the other sea nymphs, and he would frequently become jealous and possessive of his lover. But despite these difficulties, the two remained deeply in love, and their relationship became a symbol of the power and beauty of the sea itself. One day, as Poseidon was riding his chariot across the sea, he heard the playful laughter of the Nereids, the lovely sea nymphs who were under his protection. They were frolicking in the waves and leaping through the water, their long hair trailing behind them like sea foam. Poseidon smiled at the sight of the Nereids' joy and approached them.
"Hello, my dear Nereids. What brings you out to play on this fine day?"
One of the Nereids, Halia, swam up to Poseidon and smiled up at him.
"We were just entertaining ourselves, my lord. The sea was too tempting to resist."
"I understand the feeling. The sea is a wondrous thing, full of beauty and power. It is my duty to make sure that it stays that way."
As Poseidon spoke, he lifted his trident, the weapon that was his most famous symbol. It glittered in the sunlight, the three prongs sharp and deadly. The Nereids gasped in awe at the sight of it.
"Oh, my lord, we know that you wield the trident with great care and wisdom. It is a sign of your power over the ocean."
"Indeed it is, but with great power comes great responsibility. I must use the trident only when it is necessary to protect the seas and those who sail upon them."
As Poseidon spoke, he noticed Halia swimming towards him, her beauty captivating him. He realized that he had developed feelings for her, beyond the usual protectiveness he felt for the Nereids under his care. Halia showed respect to him as her lord, but he longed for something more. Despite his inner turmoil, Poseidon maintained his composure and said,
"I am powerful, it is true. But I am also a god who cares deeply for the well-being of all creatures in my domain. The sea is not just my kingdom, but also my responsibility."
As the Nereids swam and played around his chariot, Poseidon looked out at the vast expanse of the ocean. He knew that his duties would never be finished, for the sea was ever-changing and full of surprises. But he also knew that he was up to the challenge, and that with his trident and his divine horses, he would always be ready to face whatever the ocean had in store. As time passed, Poseidon couldn't rid himself of the nagging feeling that there was still more to be done. While he had demonstrated to the mortals the might of the sea, he yearned to do more to ensure they held its boundaries and creatures in reverence. From a distance, Amphitrite, his queen and wife, had been observing him.
"My lord, why do you appear so downcast? Is something vexing you?"
It is nothing, my love. I am simply weary from my travels and the weight of my responsibilities.
Amphitrite knew better than to believe her husband's words. She could sense that something was truly bothering him, and she was determined to find out what it was.
Please, my lord, tell me what is on your mind. Perhaps I can help.
For a moment, Poseidon hesitated. He had always kept his worries and concerns to himself, even from Amphitrite. But something about the way she looked at him made him feel safe and secure. And so, he began to speak.
It is the mortals. I have been watching them closely, and I am worried. They are growing too arrogant, too careless with the gifts of the sea. They have forgotten that I am the ruler of the oceans, and they treat the sea as their own personal playground. They build their ships and sail across the waters, deplete resources irresponsibly without a thought for the creatures that live within.
Amphitrite listened carefully, her heart heavy with understanding. She knew that Poseidon was right. The mortals had grown too bold, too reckless. But she also knew that there was a way to teach them a lesson, to remind them of their place in the natural order of things.
My lord, perhaps it is time for us to show the mortals what it means to truly respect the sea. We can summon the creatures of the deep, the ones that they fear and revere, and let them loose upon the ships. We can remind them that the sea is not theirs to conquer, but rather a force to be reckoned with.
Poseidon smiled at his wife's words. She was always wise and cunning, a true match for his own strength and power.
You are right, my love. We will show the mortals what it means to truly fear the sea.
One day, as he rode his chariot across the ocean, he saw a group of mortals on a ship, fishing and laughing as if they owned the sea. As Poseidon looked closer, he could see that the ship was filled with people who were oblivious to the dangers around them. They had cast their nets wide and were pulling up anything that moved, including small fish, crabs, and even newborn turtles. Meanwhile, they were throwing their garbage overboard, heedless of the harm they were inflicting upon the ocean and its creatures. Poseidon's rage mounted as he watched the mortals continue to litter the sea with their trash, completely indifferent to the consequences of their actions. The waves grew taller, and the wind howled as Poseidon's anger swelled within him. Lightning flashed across the sky, and thunder rumbled like the growl of a beast. The sea became a frothing cauldron of white water, and the ship was tossed about like a toy. The mortals on board were crying out in fear, clutching onto anything they could find as they desperately tried to keep their balance. The storm was relentless, and it seemed as though the waves would swallow the ship whole.
Your greed and disrespect for the sea have angered me. You have taken too much and given nothing in return. Your careless actions have harmed the creatures of the ocean, and for that, you will pay the price. Prepare to meet your fate at the bottom of the sea.
As Poseidon prepared to unleash his final strike and sink the ship and all its occupants to the bottom of the sea, a voice called out to him. It was Halia, one of his most devoted sea nymphs.
My lord, please do not punish these mortals so harshly. They are simple folk with no ill intentions. Perhaps there is another way to teach them to respect the sea.
Poseidon hesitated for a moment, his fury still raging inside him. But then he recognized Halia's wisdom and paused to listen to her suggestion.
What do you propose, Halia?
Halia smiled, her eyes sparkling with mischief.
Let us show them the wonder and beauty of the sea. Let us introduce them to the creatures that dwell beneath the waves and teach them to appreciate the delicate balance of life in the ocean.
Poseidon considered her words, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps Halia was right. Perhaps there was a way to teach the mortals to respect the sea without resorting to violence. Poseidon's summons brought forth a stunning display of the magical creatures that inhabit the ocean's depths. The Nereids, with their flowing hair and graceful movements, emerged from the waves, their voices harmonizing in a mesmerizing melody. The mermaids danced in the sunlight, their iridescent scales shimmering and their tails swishing back and forth in perfect unison. Dolphins and whales jumped and spun, spraying mist into the air as they played, and schools of colorful fish darted and weaved in intricate patterns. But the true star of the show was Halia, the sea nymph who had stopped Poseidon's wrath. She danced with an ethereal grace, her movements fluid and hypnotic, as if she were part of the ocean itself. Her long hair flowed behind her like seaweed in the current, and her eyes sparkled with a joy that was infectious. As the mortals watched, they were filled with wonder and awe, realizing for the first time the true magnificence of the ocean and its inhabitants. They understood that their careless actions had consequences far beyond what they could see, and they vowed to treat the ocean and its creatures with the respect and care they deserved. Over time, the mortals grew more respectful of the sea, and they began to understand the importance of preserving its creatures and their habitats. And Poseidon, once feared and revered, became a symbol of the ocean's majesty and power, respected and revered by mortals and immortals alike. And so, as the centuries passed, Poseidon continued to ride his chariot across the sea, always vigilant in his duties as the god of the oceans, but also mindful of the delicate balance of life in the sea. And the Nereids continued to dance and play in the waves, their laughter echoing across the waters as a reminder of the beauty and wonder of the world beneath the waves.